Welcome to where all of the magic happens. Written, produced, directed. The Canadian Bro Show. All Things Canadian with Pauly&Johnny. Episode 3. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Have a great day, you hosers.
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Here we are.
Here we are.
My name's Pauly.
I'm Johnny. And this
is the Canadian Bro Show. All Things Canadian with Pauly&Johnny. Episode 3.
We're here.
My
God.
God.
We were away for a while, but we're back.
Well, we weren't away. I was just on vacation, sleeping in, working out, taking care of business.
This man lost 38 pounds.
Not in the last 4 weeks, but I've been on a program, health program, for about 18 months, and I've lost 38 pounds. I'm 200 pounds
Unbelievable.
Today, which is unbelievable for me because it's the first time I've been 200 pounds in 16 years. 16 years I was fat, bloated, obese, and almost ready to die. Okay, that's a bit dramatic, but
I think a lot of people can relate to that kind of situation. We've all been there. At the end of the day, we're all human beings.
We both certainly can. And we want to do episode 3. Today is old television shows.
We grew up in a time when there was no internet, no Netflix. Our options were very limited, and we actually had to physically change the channels. We didn't have remote controls back then.
No.
Right? It was a very different time.
We'd go to the libraries if we weren't watching TV and buy and rent books. And read books. Can you imagine?
What a concept.
Reading and writing and novels. And by the way, that will be one of our future episodes as well, because Johnny is a very talented writer.
Thank you.
Which we've mentioned a few times. And we have a writing show that we're going to bring a guest on. It's going to be exciting. But today, we just want to talk briefly about what have you been doing the last 4 weeks?
Well,
since
Pauly,
we did episode 2.
I'm glad you asked me that because I've been recovering from an injury. I've been working out pretty regularly since 2019 when I started to make some very dramatic changes in my life, and let's just say more positive changes, body, mind, and soul. And I was doing concentration curls about 4 weeks ago, and I felt a bolt of lightning hit my hip of agony, a bolt of agony, I should say. And basically, what happened was I pulled my groin and my hip and my quadricep all at the same time. Good times. But it's been 4 weeks. I've made a full recovery. It's been a very stressful time in terms of my job, but fortunately I'm very lucky. I have a very understanding employer, and so I've come full circle. And you know, we have to accept in advance in our lives that there are going to be hiccups and that it's okay.
Yeah.
And that as long as we have a positive mindset and we have faith that, you know, tomorrow is another day and good times are ahead. And we need to have these challenges because if we didn't have them, then our lives would have no purpose. So Pauly, why don't you share with our nice viewers, and by the way, thank you for your support. We want your feedback, we want your input, we want your comments, and
we want you to subscribe. We want you to like. We want you to come back. We've had really good feedback the first episodes, and here we are in the third one. Yes, we took a little hiatus, but it was necessary. We're back for the grind. We're going to bang out about 16 episodes in the next 8 to 10 weeks and keep it consistent once a week moving forward. But once again, thank you for coming back.
Thank you. And I would like to thank Pauly for designing this amazing banner that you're all looking at behind us right now. I mean, really, it's laminated and it looks absolutely great. Thank you so much, Pauly, for doing that.
My pleasure. And I'm quite surprised that I was able to actually do this because I'm very technically challenged, to say
well, you're
the
not
least.
alone.
No, I'm not alone. But it's just the way technology is advancing in the 21st century. I find that I'm always chasing technology. Because it's advancing.
I think most people can relate to that, especially people our age, because we grew up in an age when none of this stuff existed.
No. But getting back to the time that we were, I'll start off on my, so this is in no particular order, like we did our
the TV shows that we grew up with back in the day. When
pretty
we were
much,
kids.
the ones we liked, the ones that were available. And for those that are younger, might not know a lot of these, and for a lot of people that are within a decade of our age, older or younger, would probably know a lot of what we're saying because they were really popular, and they're certainly popular. I'm really curious what Johnny's going to pick today.
I
already got mine.
Excited to see what's on Pauly's list.
I'm going to hide my list from Johnny because in the
you
second
gave
episode,
us so much crap last
well, no,
time.
I mean the
This.
second episode.
I was just impressed that he was so prepared, and I was not prepared. But today I'm prepared.
And you know what they say about people that are not prepared? You're prepared to fail. If you're not prepared,
well said.
You're prepared to fail. If you're prepared for success. It doesn't
Dale
really
Carnegie
mean
say
that it's going to happen.
Anthony Robbins thing?
No, it was some fancy older dude that was like, it was like Napoleon or Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
That's really
Norman
going back.
Vincent Peale?
Who knows?
Okay,
but,
here we go.
So we're talking about TV shows that we grew up with. Now I'm going to start off with Like It Like To, with my earliest memories of watching television when I was 4, 5, and 6 years old to start the day, because that's what I did when I was 4, 5, and 6. I wasn't reading books. I don't think I could read. I could read a little bit. But I was really into television shows. And one of the earliest television shows, and you might know this,
yes.
and I have extra ones because I know Johnny, we're both the same age. I'm only 6 months older than him or whatever. He might have some of the ones I chose, so I have backup ones.
There might be some overlap.
But
we don't know.
He won't have this one, I guarantee you.
No.
So one of my earliest and fondest memories was a show called, the second iteration of this show was called Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In.
Wow, that is a deep cut.
Yeah, buddy. That's 1968 to 1970. Now they did a first...
Talk it to me, baby.
I'm telling you. And Goldie Hawn was when she was, just before she won an Academy Award in her very first film in 1969, of which the name escapes me.
She was Express, I believe.
You're absolutely right. This is what I love about Always. Well, okay. I'm not. But it's good to have Johnny on my side because we both really have a vast knowledge of what we're talking about here, and we really enjoy it. So
very useful information.
The Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In was very popular. Goldie Hawn was very young. She was probably 19, 20 years old. And it was exciting, it was funny, and she was electric. And I just remember watching the show all the time because it really kept things moving.
Yeah.
How about you, Johnny? What was your first one?
I'm going to go with SCTV because this is the Canadian Bro Show.
Yeah.
So I thought we should start with a Canadian show. So SCTV, which is Second
One of
City
the best.
TV, was basically, for those of you who are American, was the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live. And I actually thought that, I actually laughed a lot more watching SCTV than I did Saturday Night
So
Live.
did I.
Joe Flaherty and Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis, Bob and Doug McKenzie. And
Eugene
what
Levy,
I loved about that show,
John Candy.
yeah, it existed in its own world. Like it took place in a town called Melonville. I can't remember which province it was in. It was in a Canadian province. Do you remember which one? Manitoba, maybe?
No, I think it was Nunavut.
Saskatchewan?
Okay.
The Northwest Territories.
I have no idea. It was someplace cold where there was lots of beer.
Yeah. And it was 90 minutes. They did a 90-minute episode,
which is unheard
every
of.
week. And it was like one comedy segment after another, so sort of like regular skits. But
Andrea Martin.
Right, but unlike Saturday Night Live, which would do like a one unrelated skit after another, SCTV, they would have like a storyline.
Yeah.
Like with each 90-minute episode, like they did an alien invasion episode where the station had actually been invaded by aliens from Zontar. And so that's my choice, SCTV. And of course, many of those actors from that show went on to movies and Hollywood, like Rick Moranis would be a great example.
Rick Moranis.
And on and on. So that's my first choice.
And we've
SCTV.
dropped so many names, we're probably missing one or two, but it was incredible. And I agree with Johnny. I had this down as my favorite show. I knew Johnny would bring it up.
Good.
So, nice one. So we've got two really good old school ones. SCTV was a little bit later. I'm going to go back early into one of my favorite. I love comedy. I love television comedy. And I would say that probably my earliest favorite comedy was on Channel 9, KT, what was the?
KCTS?
Yeah, the Seattle channel that Johnny mentioned earlier in the intro, Channel 9. And they had a lot of British shows.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to go with my favorite all-time British comedian, the Benny Hill Show.
Okay.
Just absolutely some of the funniest. I mean, some of his stuff was so funny.
Yeah.
Borderline
Not exactly
vulgar.
family friendly.
Borderline vulgar.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little can you
would
say
be considered sexist by today's standards.
I would say like kind of mocking titillation. Am I even allowed to say that? YouTube, I'm sorry, it's a family show. But we're trying to explain Benny Hill. And Benny Hill, because it was British, didn't have, I mean, back in Canada in the 60s and 70s, if you wanted to have a Canadian beer, and it was Sunday, you couldn't buy a beer.
No, there were a lot of restrictions. Nothing was open on Sundays.
No, because it was, it was about going to church.
Right.
And then watching the Benny Hill show. Well, he titillated. Filthy British
the best
humor.
of both worlds.
I'm telling you, it was just hilarious. So Benny Hill, I mean, if you haven't heard of him, you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, go watch his old shows, go to the library. Absolutely brilliant. The guy was hilarious and very prolific,
I think
talented,
pretty much
great
everybody
writer.
from our generation watched the Benny Hill show.
I hope so. I certainly did. It was incredible. And what would your next one, Johnny?
Okay, I'm going to go with another comedy, which is a show that began as a comedy, but in later seasons actually became much more dramatic. And this show is called MASH. Now, MASH was based on a series.
Not MASH.
It was a series of novels.
MASH.
And then it was a movie directed by Robert Altman. And then it became a very long-running TV series. Now, MASH took place during the Korean War in the early 1950s. It's an acronym. It stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. And I used to watch MASH twice a week. Well, I watched it every day in the reruns, and then there were the new episodes on Saturdays, and it went on for 11 seasons. And what an incredible cast and great characters, and every character had such a well-defined personality. And Alan Alda, the star of the show, Hawkeye Pierce, he went on to write and direct several episodes. And the thing that I remember the most about MASH, Pauly, is, do you remember the episode where, spoiler warning, Henry Blake, who was a regular character on that show, I think it was the first time in the history of American television where a continuing character, like a star of the show, his character actually died and didn't like magically come back to life in a later episode. It actually stayed dead. And what happened was Henry, who was colonel, he was the commander of the base, he had been discharged, and he was on his way back to America to reunite with his family.
Okay, this is where I have to interject just to... That's incredible, but Johnny will go and explain the entire 11 years of the series.
I'm almost done. No.
Oh.
I just want to talk about this one episode because it was very much a milestone television moment when Henry Blake's plane crashed into the Sea of Japan and Radar, another character played by Gary Berghoff, walks into the operating room and announces to the other doctors that Henry had been killed in this plane crash. I remember watching this with my mom and dad, and our jaws were on the floor. And we would continue to watch MASH and think, well, when's Henry coming back? They're gonna bring him back, right? Like they're gonna find him on an island or on a raft, but he never did. And I remember at school the next day at Henry Hudson.
Oh my God, here we go.
Everyone
Rabbit hole.
Okay, I'm done.
Rabbit hole.
Anyway, MASH is my second choice.
We just lost 14 of our probably 50 viewers during that. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep it moving. But Johnny has a wealth of knowledge, and his brain is massive. And he uses a very large percentage, unlike myself.
No shortage of trivia.
None whatsoever. But I have to interject because this is only our third show? Second show?
What's your next choice?
Oh, my next choice?
You have the floor, sir.
Okay, just because your book's open, I can't read chicken scratch.
No, neither can I.
So, for me, it was always about comedy, and I like to mix it up. And I would say my next favorite television show was probably my #1 favorite television show growing up because of the sheer amount of laughter. I used to laugh so hard in this that pee breaks were almost not even an option. It was like get to the commercial and then have a pee break if needed. You're allowed to say pee on the TV? I don't think YouTube will get to it. It's children pee, adults pee. Anyways, I was laughing so hard. I would say the Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, good call.
Probably one of my favorite comedy sitcoms. Absolutely brilliant. She was incredible.
Yes.
I used to laugh so hard I would cry with Harvey Korman and Tim Conway. And
Lyle Wagner.
And being an actor or an ex-actor and in film like Johnny and I, there's something called the fourth wall.
Right.
And you have to respect the fourth wall. That's the audience. Whether you have an audience in the studio or not, they would break the fourth wall.
Harvey Korman, not so great at maintaining the fourth
No,
wall.
he couldn't help it. Because Tim Conway was brilliant.
He was. The shuffling old man.
Oh, my God.
Mr. What was the secretary?
Oh,
the
and
boss
he'd
and
be
the
like,
secretary? Mrs. Wiggins?
Mrs. Wiggins, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And it'd be
That was probably my favorite character.
If you guys haven't seen this show, watch it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It holds up. And do you remember Eunice?
Yes.
The
All of it. We could talk forever, but Carol Burnett show.
Yeah.
Johnny, what's your
call.
next?
Okay, my next choice is another comedy, All in the Family. Now, I used to watch All in the Family religiously. Again, another groundbreaking show, because the main character, Archie Bunker, played by Carol O'Connor, was, let's just say that by today's standards, he would be considered an unacceptable character. I mean, the things that he said on that show.
He was essentially a racist.
A white bigot, very unsavory guy. But as we saw sometimes in future episodes, he had some redeeming qualities. You know, he just grew up with in a different time. And I used to watch All in the Family religiously. It was so well written. Norman Lear, who created the show, who passed away recently, he passed away at 100 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And he continued to work in television. And I just
Norman Lear was also part of the Three's Company, which didn't make my list. Maybe it's on Johnny's, but talented producer.
Yeah, very prolific television producer. And so that's my choice, All in the Family. I mean, it was a very daring...
Meathead!
Yeah, it was very daring. Yeah, you had Archie Bunker, who was this very arch conservative, super right wing, and then his son-in-law, played by Rob Reiner, who went on to become a very prolific film director.
Still
as Pauly
is.
said, Meathead. He was a very left-wing, very liberal type of character.
Socialist.
And so the interaction between the two, the chemistry that they had, was really a lot of fun. And it was fun to see how sometimes Archie would actually be proven right about something, and then Meathead. I think the writers tried to be fair on both sides of the political spectrum. And then the episode where Rob Reiner and his wife Sally Struthers actually left the show. Was
let's
very
not go
moving.
there. We don't have
we're
time.
Done. I'm feeling the hook.
But I know, dude. You can't help yourself. I'm telling you. Someday, from your success at the Canadian Bro Show, you're going to have your own show. In the meantime,
what's your next choice?
I just wanted to say, don't forget Edith. She put
James
up with
Stapleton.
all kinds of crap from Archie Bunker.
Yes.
But anyways, great pick, Johnny.
Thank you.
Great pick.
It's
And it was on my list.
Very good show.
He's hit so far 2 of the 3 on my list, which I expected, because I would say the next one for me is, I will go back to American comedy. Johnny and I both like to laugh. We all love to laugh, let's face it. But a lot of the shows that we have in here were actually extremely funny. And for me, one of the funniest ones, there was many. I would have to say the next one is, I got to go with Get Smart. Get Smart. Honestly, I watched it. It was a half-hour show. I get off from school if I didn't have sports, get on my bike, get home. It would be Get Smart, and then another show. If Johnny doesn't mention, I'll mention. And then another show. If Johnny doesn't mention, I'll mention. They were all one after another half-hour shows.
Yeah, I loved Get Smart.
And I'd watch for an hour and a half of the 3 shows, maybe 4, and that would be my after school before I did whatever I did.
Remember the cone of silence?
Oh my God. It was so good. If you haven't seen the Get Smart, it is hilarious. It was ahead of its time.
It was the first cell phones with the shoe phone.
I'm telling
with the dial.
you.
Actually, the shoe phones actually had rotary dials.
Really, go check it out. Go watch some old episodes on YouTube. It is incredible. Johnny, who do you got?
Okay. My next choice is Hill Street Blues.
Wow.
Now, it's from a later time, the early 1980s. And again, it's another show that I watched with my mom and dad every week.
Really?
And
Family affair.
Hill Street Blues, which was a cop show, crime drama now, different genre.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the first TV shows that felt like a movie. Like it felt like a really
long movie for about 11 years, 11 seasons.
A Martin Scorsese quality level of movie every week, and such a huge ensemble cast of characters, again with really well-defined personalities, and it was a continuing storyline. So you pretty much had to watch every week. But my mom and dad and I, we used to watch Hill Street Blues regularly. Really beautiful theme song. Yeah. And of course, the famous catchphrase from the sergeant who would do the roll call at the end, at the beginning of every episode, was, "Let's be careful out there." Did you watch that show?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Not my favorite genre, but that was so good. And
I think one of the best cop shows ever made. Right?
I knew there was a cop show coming from Johnny. I knew
He's
it.
the writer.
And you're right, Bochco is, and they all went out. Like a lot of the guys Johnny's dropped names on, all of them are successful. All of them had many, and it was a great series. And that one, it was a good surprise. And I really enjoyed it as well. I'm going to go back to British for a second because I was born in Cambridge in the UK.
Pip, pip, cheerio.
Yeah, well, you know, all right.
Blimey!
Can somebody bring me a Pips?
Not to stereotype.
Can I have a Pips, please? And I don't want any fucking cucumber. Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened
Austin
there.
Powers 4.
And that wasn't swear. That was just a bad accent. Okay, so YouTube, take it easy on me. The next one I have to say is I have to go with Fawlty Towers.
Yes.
Fawlty Towers. I mean, they only did 12 episodes.
Yeah. Well, the Brits are famous for that. They don't, you know, they end. They like The Office.
Well, you know why the Brits are famous at that? We had 5 channels in Canada. In England at the time, they had 3.
Wow.
So if you did 12 episodes, you're lucky. And honestly, they cut it too short because it's absolutely brilliant. And of course, I won't say anything more because I'll just leave it at that. If you haven't seen Fawlty Towers, John Cleese.
Absolutely brilliant. Basil Fawlty.
Basil and the whole crew, it is mind-splitting.
It is.
It was like Trump. You'd have to wear a diaper to get through the episode. Ooh.
That's not gross.
Well, he's gross. Okay. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Johnny, who would be your next show?
I'm going to go with a choice that is not on my list. It just popped into my mind right now, and it's kind of a left field. So here we go. I'm just going to wing this. It's not in my notebook. Did you ever watch a show called Wise Guy with Ken Wall? It was an amazing premise. It was about an undercover agent who is working undercover as an actual criminal, as a gangster. Yeah. And his undercover is so deep that he actually spends like 6 months in prison, right? To establish this new identity for himself.
Which helps you establishing a fake identity.
Right. The rest, a Stephen J. Cannell show, an incredibly prolific
filmed in
writer.
Vancouver.
Yes, it was shot in Vancouver.
I was on the show.
And I was an extra in one episode.
As an actor. Actor.
Back in the day. And
good one.
Again, continuing storylines. And Kevin Spacey, who played Mel Prophet in the second season, was absolutely amazing. Yeah. And so that's my choice, Wise Guy. I'm surprised that hasn't come back like on the big screen because it's such a great premise. Oh, and one more thing I want to say about this show is that even his family and his friends thought that he was a gangster. Like that's how embedded his new identity was, which was a tremendous burden for this character. Ken Wall. Ken Wall played Vinny Terranova, and he was absolutely amazing.
And you know, when I see Ken Wall and his name and everything, to me, it reminds me of, and hopefully you didn't choose this, as another show, Welcome Back, Kotter, with John Travolta.
Yes.
And it was like a poor man's version of John Travolta in Welcome Back,
They could almost
Kotter.
be twin brothers back in the day.
I'm telling you, it was... And I got to meet him. I was not only an extra on the show like Johnny, but I actually had a small acting part in that.
You met Ken Wall?
They ran it out at the Hotel Meridian, which I worked in, like Bird on the Wire when I was with Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn and Bird on the Wire. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of gigs, broken badges, and a lot of gigs because I was working in a 5-diamond hotel in Vancouver, and I was a waiter in a tuxedo and, you know, young and... You know, used to be relatively...
His performance in Bird on a Wire is
just electrifying.
Brilliant.
It's electrifying. Honestly, I cannot believe I didn't get a Tony. I was devastated.
You were robbed.
100%.
But it's in the past. We must move forward.
No, you can check it out.
What's your next choice, Pauly?
Oh, my next choice, Johnny, is... well, you've already taken All in the Family. I'm going to go... And you already took MASH.
Is that on your list too?
Yeah. So far, you've got MASH and All in the Family, but we're early in this. So I'm going to go back to an older show that I just absolutely loved, and it was one of my favorite, is the interesting synergy between friends, kind of like Johnny and I. We have a lot of similarities. You know, we love each other, we enjoy each other's company, but we're also quite different. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Compare and contrast.
Absolutely, and it's not a bad thing. And in this particular case, I would go with The Odd Couple.
Oh, yes.
I used to love the show, and you know the two contradictions between both of these chaps trying to live together in the same. I could never
Tony
live.
Randall and Jack.
I could never live with Johnny. in a condo together. And quite frankly, not many people would ever be able to live with me in a condo. Trust me. I would rather have a dog than a roommate. But, you know, The Odd Couple is something that I used to love it. It was funny.
Yeah, I watched that show
They
too.
played off each other so well. It was well written, well directed.
Tony Randall was a really brilliant performer. I mean, they both were, but
they're both talented.
They were great comedy actors.
But Randall, he was on Broadway in New York.
Yeah.
This guy they were both talented. Anyways, it was just one that popped up, and I really enjoyed it. It was on later in the afternoon, so I was probably working out or in sports or down at Kids Beach playing basketball or swimming at Kids Pool, whatever. But I used to watch it a lot. Johnny, who do you got next?
Okay, I'm gonna go with the $6 Million Man.
I knew you were gonna bring that up. I knew that one.
The premise of this show, I can't believe that this has not made it to the big screen. Steve Austin is a test pilot who crashes a jet that he's testing, and he's near death. One of his arms, his legs, and his eye completely demolished. And so
is that all?
His limbs are replaced with bionics, which is a real thing, but it's a TV show. And
all the limbs or just some of the limbs?
Just what you said the second time.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So his bionics, of course, the legs give him super speed, and his arm he has super strength, and his eye has super hearing. And I remember one episode, he's actually able to use his hand as a Geiger counter. I mean, it was a very, very well-written show. And then in a future episode, they introduced another character, the $7 Million Man, played by Monty Markham, who had two bionic legs and two bionic arms. And what I love about that episode, and I watch a couple of clips on YouTube every once in a while because it's so good. His character is like the evil version of Steve Austin. Like, he can't handle having all of these superpowers. So when he goes on missions with Steve Austin, he's just like indiscriminately, killing people left, right, and center. And so they actually have to turn off his bionics.
So Johnny's pick was actually the $6 Million Man, not the $7 Million Man.
Well, that was one episode.
Of which I honestly don't remember. I do remember the female version of the
bionic woman.
Yeah, and that
Jamie Summers.
That was pretty good too. But
yes,
I really enjoyed the
It was so good. I used to watch that with my dad. That was one of the times
I enjoyed the $6 Million Man as well.
$6 Million Man.
But I'm going to go back to my childhood for a second before I get into more of the 70s and 80s. Although this childhood one is an absolute classic. And I know it's easy to say, but I could not go a morning without watching the cartoons or the morning shows that I used to watch before going to school. And Sesame Street was my favorite, as it was many others. It was unbelievable. I remember seeing Morgan Freeman before I even knew Electric Company, but he also was a guest on because he started on Electric Company, and then he did guest work on Sesame Street before he got into acting. And Electric Company was really good too. I forgot about that.
I remember the Spider-Man segments.
Oh, of course, and the cartoons and stuff.
Spider-Man showed up.
Did they? Who had the George of the Jungle?
Oh, that was a whole nother thing.
That was a different show.
We shouldn't sing because copyright infringement.
Oh, no, we're not singing though.
Oh, we're not. Okay.
No,
there was Tom Slick.
I can't sing anyways.
But anyways, Chicken was another
getting
one.
back, Sesame Street.
Yeah, and educational.
Very educational, great for kids.
It taught us how to count.
It taught us everything. It was really a fantastic show, and I think it's still on television.
And the Muppets
today.
again have such great, well-defined personalities, like Grover and Kermit.
Hey, Froggy! Kermit the Frog!
And Ernie and Bert.
And the Cookie Monster and whatever. Anyways, fantastic show.
Big Bird.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What do you got,
I think
Johnny?
they're still making new ones.
Yeah, I think so.
Still on the air.
What do you got? Who you got next?
Okay, I'm going to go with WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh,
which
really?
was a show that I watched every week in the 1980s. It was about a radio station.
Yeah.
And again, just really well written. And do you remember the episode where Les Nessman, who was the newsman, it was Thanksgiving, one of the most classic TV episodes of all time, I think.
Yeah.
They did a promotion where they threw a bunch of turkeys out of an airplane, like over a shopping mall for Thanksgiving. And nobody knew that turkeys don't fly. So they actually murdered all of these turkeys.
Especially since they removed their wing,
not for
or their
real,
feathers.
It was a TV show, but very, very funny. And there was the one where Venus Flytrap, he tries to be a mentor to this gangbanger, and he explains to this mentor, the Atom,
Can you say gangbanger on a friendly
We can. It's a different
television
context.
family show?
A gangster, a young gangster.
I'm joking.
And so
there's no gangbangers in
this
Cincinnati.
episode where he explains to this kid who's in a gang, he's trying to get the kid out of the gang, try to get him on a more positive path.
Sure.
He actually explains the atom, like the neutrons, and he uses like gang terms. And that episode actually won an Emmy.
If you're nodding off or going to the washroom and making popcorn, I understand. Great show.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And great theme song.
And I used to watch the show for one reason only, and I won't even tell you what that reason is. Lonnie Anderson? Oh, I just did tell you. She was beautiful. If that was her name.
Are you okay?
The blonde? Oh, I am now. No, I'm great. Dude, I understand that.
What's your next choice, Pauly?
My next choice.
The whole world wants to know.
My next choice, I'm going back to the UK. I'm going back to British humor because I'm British, kind of, half.
You are an Anglophile.
I'm
I
a
think
lot.
It's the right word.
I've been called a lot worse than that. So
there
thank
are worse
you.
things to be called than that.
Thank you very much. I know. I appreciate it. Anglophile. That sounds rather,
I got that from a movie called Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Oh my God! Let's not get into It's a family show. So I am going back to British humor. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Good.
Yes, I love Monty Python.
John Cleese once again.
Oh, Eric Idle, the whole crew. They were just brilliant, talented. Terry Gilliam, all of them. It is, for me, some of the best comedy I've ever seen. Benny Hill I thought was better, but there was a little bit different type of humor, and all the movies they made after is a whole different thing.
The Life of Brian.
Oh my God,
classic.
Jabberwocky.
Right? Yeah, I watch all those movies.
We could go on, but
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is your favorite classic Monty Python skit? Because I have one.
The skit?
Yeah. Or segment. Because I have one. Go ahead.
I've seen them all, but he's asking me a question, but he wants to answer the question.
No, I want to hear your answer first, if you have one.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I do, but I'm under pressure and the clock's ticking.
No pressure. This isn't about pressure. This is about good times.
It's
the four rich men trying to one-up each other about their childhoods. How awful. You think you had it rough. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
That is one of the absolute funniest comedy segments of all time.
But I have to admit, because it was only on Channel 9, on the Seattle channel, that you'd have to watch it and then hope that there was, because they had quite a few episodes before they got into film. But
you know why we liked British television so much?
Because we only had 4 channels.
Well, it was not just that. It was smarter. Just the quality. We as with kids, we might not have understood every single nuance or every single joke, but we felt like we had to pay more attention. And we wanted to. We were eager to, because just the writing was so much more
and the accents
well-developed.
and a different world. It wasn't Canada. I mean, Canada in the
Right.
60s and 70s is like, it's not like the UK at any time, really. But that's a good point.
Yeah.
Who do you got next, Johnny?
Okay, I'm going to go with 1966 Batman, Adam West and Burt Ward.
Wow.
Now, very tragically, this, for me anyway, as a young comic book nerd, this was not a show that I recall seeing on any of the stations that we grew up with. They play the movie that they made, but the actual TV series I only got to watch whenever me and my mom went to Fremont, California to visit my aunt and uncle. And as we talked about in previous episodes, Pauly and I both have a great affinity for comic books. And for me, the 1966 Batman TV series, the costumes, the Batmobile, still the best iteration of the Batmobile to this day, I think. And the villains and all that show was just a comic book come to life. Now, getting back to Carol Burnett, Pauly, we're going to bring this all together right now in a way that is going to knock your socks off.
We're not finished. We
Get
still
ready.
Have a few more.
Did you know that Lyle Wagner was the original Bruce Wayne?
Yes.
Before he knew that.
Yes, I did.
Well, that's disappointing.
Wow.
Anyway, you can actually watch the clip on YouTube. And had they cast Lyle Wagner,
Yeah.
who's going through puberty again, as Bruce Wayne, it would have been a more serious take on the character. But they went with Adam West, who I think was a better choice. And what's beautiful about that show, and I think it still holds up, is that it works on 2 levels. You can watch it as a kid and just get so sucked into it because it's just like this total, unapologetically a comic book world brought to life. But the writers, particularly Lorenzo Semple Jr., who was a very prolific writer back in the day, they would add little subtext, little jokes here and there.
Pow!
That only are, the graphics of the show, right? And then in the 3rd season, they brought in Yvonne Craig as Batgirl, who was my first love, and I think a lot of
Okay, here we go. He's going down the rabbit hole again.
No, it's not a rabbit hole at all. It's a very sweet,
if we
memory
don't
of
cut him
my
off,
first love.
he will tell you about every episode of every year, and that's incredible. And that's
Yeah.
why we have him on the Canadian Bro Show.
Anyway,
because
that's my choice, Batman.
that's a
Great
beautiful
theme
choice.
song.
And I did actually watch the television show on TV in black and white because it was on either one of the three American channels, ABC, NBC, or CBS, and they did have it. And I did not like the show. I thought it was pretty cool. I love superheroes and comments. No, I just the comments were the costumes were dodgy. Batman's right-hand man was like totally weak. I don't know. I didn't feel that vibe. And I gave Johnny a hard time about Superman because he loves Superman. And with Marlon Brando in it. No, it's just a crap. It was
Very
a piece of
thick
crap.
skin.
It was a very expensive piece of crap. But anyways, I do appreciate Johnny's
What
taste.
is your next choice, Pauly?
My next choice is I'm going to go science fiction. And I'm going to go into, now I was going to go old school science fiction. There's three of my favorite science fictions. I didn't mention the two because one, I couldn't remember the names. I'd have to look them up and I love them. But the one that really I watched on a regular basis because it was a Canadian actor by the name of Martin Landau, and it was Space 1999.
Oh, yes. I also watched that show.
I was addicted to that show. And it was doing science fiction back in the late 60s and early 70s.
No CG.
I mean, you could almost see the strings holding the little model of.
I still think it looks better in some ways because it's physical. There's a physical reality to those kinds of effects.
It really stands the test of time, and I think it's a good comment, Johnny. And Space 1999 was something I really enjoyed.
A great premise. Basically, the moon. There's like an atomic explosion on the moon, and there's a base, and so the moon
on
is
the
blowing
dark
out
side
of
of
Earth's
the moon.
orbit, and then it falls into a black hole.
Yeah.
And every week they encounter.
It was
a
great.
different
It was
species
low
of
budget,
aliens.
but it was really well done. And when you're when you're 6-7 years old, what do you care? It's like entertainment.
You're not going to think about the physics of the moon warping through space.
I couldn't spell physics. I didn't even know what physics was back then.
No, we did not.
But anyways, Johnny, who do you like next?
I just want to say one more thing about that show. The second season, I feel, was when they brought in Maya, who could turn into different animals.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Schell.
Yeah.
And there was another character. Remember Tony Verdeschi, who was kind of a leading man, and they had a romantic chemistry. Like they had like a Maddie and Bruce Willis thing for moonlighting going on.
My memory is quite good, but I do have to admit that I will say that parts of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s were a lot of fun, and perhaps I had too much fun. And therefore my memory might be a little bit, but Johnny knows everything and remembers everything. So
I only remember the most important things.
And that is your next show.
Like pop culture trivia. Okay, my next choice is another cop show / sitcom, Barney Miller. I watched Barney Miller religiously back in the day.
I can't believe you didn't say the Rockford Files again.
Well, we talked about that in the previous episode.
I know, that's probably why you didn't.
Barney Miller was a half-hour sitcom that was set at the 13th Precinct. And again, just another amazingly well-written show, very well-defined characters. I think it went on for about 9 seasons.
Yeah.
And that's my next choice. And that's pretty much the end of my list.
Well, I
have one more.
I enjoyed that show. And if I'll just go on Johnny's thing, because I watched a lot of this. I watch almost all the same shows. And Barney Miller, I didn't really like that much. I liked the Rockford Files. I liked Kojak.
Oh, that's another good one.
I liked Mannix.
Mannix, yes.
But I really liked, and you'll remember this, is the dude that he wore a hat and he was a monster hunter.
He was a what?
A monster.
Oh, Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Kolchak the Night Stalker.
The original X-Files.
Crap,
that show was the progenitor of the X-Files.
I didn't know that. That is, if you guys haven't, it was
amazing.
Good, man.
Every week he encountered like a supernatural
Do you remember the actor's
force.
name? What was the actor's name?
Darren McGavin.
He was
in
awesome.
The $6 Million Man.
Yes.
He was the original Oscar Goldman.
Oh my God! Thank you for bringing that up.
And such a great actor.
Because I was thinking about it. I was going to put it on, but I couldn't remember the title.
He had the straw hat.
Yeah.
And he was a reporter.
Oh, he was great.
And the original movie was called The Night Stalker, and I think he was hunting a vampire in Las Vegas.
Yeah, he had monsters and all kinds of like whatever. Yeah. That's a good one. I really appreciate
Chris Carter, who created the X-Files, he grew up with that show, and that's basically how the X-Files came to be, because he's probably from our generation.
You don't need an encyclopedia when you got Johnny. Love the guy. So my next one is, for those that know me and those that don't know me.
One of my Facebook friends, Bobby Nash, he writes Kolchak novels.
Oh, really?
He's writing
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about that during
I'd
our
love to
novel
have him
and
as a
writing.
guest on our show.
Well, we could do that. Well, we got Jonathan Brown already, but we can do another one.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
Sky's the limit.
The next one, Johnny's finished, and I've got just one more on my list.
I've got one more.
I've got two children's ones I'd like to bring up, just mention. But this next one I used to watch because I'm a hoop junkie. I love basketball. And
Basketball maniac.
I am a hoop junkie. It's not a maniac, a hoop junkie. And, I watch basketball, I listen to basketball, I read about basketball.
Is it fair to say that you live, eat, and breathe basketball?
Yeah, pretty much. My
Nailed
nickname is Kitsilano Kid. Hoop junkie. Anyways, The White Shadow.
Oh!
I loved The White Shadow.
I watched that show.
It was an American show.
Ken Howard.
I fell in love with basketball in 1970-71. I was on 10th and Trimble in Point Grey, and I was in my crib. I had a crib, not a mansion, like the MTV show. It was an actual crib.
Very much ahead of his time.
Because I was 4.5, 5 years old.
Way ahead of the curve.
I crawled out of my crib, turned on the TV that was
your literal crib.
Literal.
Okay. Not figurative.
No, I was 4 years old. I didn't have a license. I didn't have my license until I was 27. John's getting his license.
That's in the works.
Johnny was getting his. I know. We're going to do it. I'm telling you.
Very nearly killed a skateboarder.
He's 58 years old. Almost killed a skateboarder on his first driver's license.
Never.
At least you didn't kill the kid, because involuntary manslaughter is not a good thing to have. You can't be in security with involuntary manslaughter charge.
That generally doesn't fly.
No. But although there'll be a lot of people who say, a skateboarder? Oh, that's okay.
The White Shadow.
The White Shadow. So it was an American show. It was in Chicago. I think it was filmed in Chicago, and it was about basketball in the 70s and 80s. Great theme song, really well written, great coach, and very charismatic. Lots of interesting dialogue. A lot of people don't know that white people could actually play basketball. Not in the 40s and 50s and 60s, but to this day. As a matter of fact, we'll do a basketball episode, so we won't go there. But Johnny, do you have anything that popped into your head that you maybe forgot that you wanted to mention?
About we're still doing TV shows?
Well, we're gonna finish.
I have one more.
We're gonna finish up pretty soon, but
I have one more on my list, and then I'm done.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Linda Carter as Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Now, here we go again. It's
a family show. Just remember, it's a family show.
I'm keeping it family friendly, 100%. Now, do you remember the Wonder Woman movie with Kathy Lee Crosby, where she looked like a flight attendant?
Yes,
remember that? She had blonde hair?
Yes, I do.
And it was fun, but it was not the Wonder Woman from the comic books. So the producers at ABC went back to the drawing board, pun intended, and they did another Wonder Woman movie, this time with Linda Carter. And she actually looked like Wonder Woman from the comic books. And she was not only an incredibly beautiful woman, and still is to this day, but so charismatic and so cheerful. And I love the fish out of water aspect of that show. She comes from Paradise Island, this mythical place, to America, and it's World War II, and she's walking around Los Angeles in her Wonder Woman outfit, and everybody's losing their minds. And
nobody would notice in LA, though.
And do you remember Wonder Girl? Deborah Winger. They brought her on the show as Wonder Girl.
Terrible.
And of course, Deborah Winger went on to become one of the most prolific actresses from the 1980s.
She was a pain in the ass.
Great theme song.
She upset so many people that she disappeared rather quickly in the late 80s.
Do you remember The Invisible Plane?
It was an invisible movie.
She flew an invisible plane.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Are you talking about the Gal Gadot movie?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh no, I like Gal.
Okay.
I like Gal. Don't get me wrong.
So in the later seasons, they brought Wonder Woman into present day, which would have been in the 1970s. Not as fun. But the first season of Wonder Woman, I actually watched the DVDs a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It really holds up. It's just so entertaining.
I used to watch it because she was beautiful.
And great theme song.
And great
One
theme
of the best
song.
theme songs of all time.
And she was very charismatic. She had a great body type because she was broad like a woman. She was kind of like elongated. She was like a very Norwegian or Netherlands woman. You know, she was
the
tall.
literal Amazon. Oh, sorry.
She really was. Was that my mouth?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. If you see water coming out, it's one of us. It could be, or it could be just coming from our new poster in the back. Who knows?
Plug.
But yeah, right.
That's my last choice. That's the last one
The
on my list.
Canadian Bro Show, episode 3, television old television. I'm going to go back for my last 2 quick notes because when I used to wake up early, and it was the only time in my life I used to wake up early, Johnny, and that
Saturday morning?
No, every morning.
Yeah.
Because I had athletics before I
Right.
started school, so I would start at 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning at school. I'd bike to school. But in the meantime, I'd watch early morning shows to watch cartoons and television.
How about JP Patches? Did you watch that?
He does this all the time. And guess what I was going to say?
It's called enthusiasm.
How does he know?
I'll curb my enthusiasm.
How does he know what I was going to say? It is so funny that he said that. I didn't include JP Patches because I thought he would say it. I included the other 2 that I would have mentioned because I didn't think he would mention them. Trust me, I've got it written down here. I can prove it. I'm going to go with the Friendly Green Giant.
Oh, what happened here?
Oh, no, it's okay. It's just it's reminding us that the battery.
The Friendly Giant.
The Friendly Green Giant. The Friendly Giant.
Jolly Green Giant, but then there's a Friendly Giant.
Yeah, the Friendly Giant. Yeah. So I really loved his show.
Look up.
But
way up.
I looked at the next one I have to say is HR Puffin Stuff.
Oh, wow. That's a deep cut.
I know.
Sid and Marty Krofft.
It was the best. I loved it.
Living Island.
And the kid kind of
Everything
looked
on
like
the
me.
island was alive.
The kid kind of looked like me, and I was like, oh, I want to be HR Puffin Stuff. His name was Billy Blanks, I think. But it was a great show. So anyways, that's all I have.
And there was a Puffin Stuff movie, too.
Yeah, there was. It wasn't that successful, and Puffin Stuff was only there for a couple of years.
Anyway,
but
that's done.
Let's get down to, we're finishing up the show. We're at about 40, we're just under 50 minutes, believe it or not. My goodness. We're usually in the late 50s. What I'd like to go next, Johnny, is our books.
We are very avid readers.
We are avid readers.
We love to read.
We love TV, we love films, but we love writing, we love novels, and reading is it's one of the best things in the world.
It is.
Johnny,
No,
please.
you start.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I've been talking. You go.
I am reading a book called 2034. The writers are Elliot Ackerman and Admiral James Stavridis, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, both military veterans.
Cool.
And basically, it takes place, obviously, in the year of the title. It's an escalating conflict between the United States and China. It's basically building towards an all-out World War III.
Which is kind of happening right now.
They have developed a technology, a cyber offensive technology that basically renders all American military capability. Like there's a scene where a pilot, he's doing like a routine patrol over Iranian airspace, and like the stick starts moving by itself. Like it's a really chilling and all too realistic premise. And I'm halfway through, and the Americans have already dropped a nuclear bomb on a Chinese city. Like this book is not boring. It's absolute page turner, and there's already a sequel, and I have every intention upon reading it. And what is your choice?
Wow, my choice is a book that many of you would have not known, but I brought this in because it's
unbelievably, it's about basketball.
Big surprise there. This one is a book called Lucky Me, and My Life in Basketball. Stan Stewardson. Stan Stewardson was a great man, a great real estate investor, one of my favorite coaches when he played me, not when he didn't, unless he got kicked out of the game.
Was he a role model for you?
He was in real estate.
Oh, okay.
Not in basketball, though, because he sat me on the bench and I was a 26-year-old sophomore at Simon Fraser University. But his assistant coach was Jay Triano, who's in the NBA, drafted by the Lakers in the 6th round.
Wow.
In the NBA. Never played in the NBA, but I used to take the bus out to SFU to watch Jay play. And when Stan got kicked out of the game, Jay would immediately call a timeout or implement me and put me into the game instantly. And Stan would be watching up at the gym and Simon Fraser University gym and watch. And I'd wave at Stan when I go in and say, "See, Stan, watch this." Right? Don't sit me on the bench. Play me. I'm better than your entire starting lineup. Jay knows that, you don't. Anyways, Stan wrote a book called My Life in Basketball, and he actually, there's a segment in this book where he remembers something about me, not necessarily. So,
Or you mentioned?
I am.
By name?
Yeah.
Let's see the page.
No.
No?
No.
What?
Read the book. I don't know. I don't have it marked down because.
What a tease.
But I think he put me in the back as like he talked about me during this one practice, and I don't know. I thought it was really cool when I got the book, and I like Stan. And he was a good guy. He was a very successful real estate guy, and one of the reasons why I got into real estate, one of my mentors, and I played with Simon Fraser in 1988, 1 year, and I played professional 4 or 5 years later, sitting on the bench in a Canadian college and playing professional in Europe, getting paid. Stan, you missed out there, buddy, but it's all good. I used to go in Europe and oh, where are you from? I'd say SFU, and they go, oh, San Francisco University. Wow. Did you play with Bill Russell? Dude, I'm not that old. No, it's Simon Fraser University. We're the Klansmen. Oh, is that in Louisiana? Klansmen? Oh my God.
Upset Daisy.
That's it.
Your phone is
the battery died. That's okay. The camera's still going. Anyways, Johnny and I.
So I guess that's it for our TV episode.
Yeah, 50 minutes. We're right on track.
Well, that was fun.
That was so fun.
Very,
listen, we're gonna have to go because my sharing is caring. The camera is still recording.
Okay,
so
good.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, we don't want to start
technological mishap. That's kind of like my middle name.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you kindly for watching.
Love you.
Please subscribe. Please comment. Please like. And we're going to be banging out another show tomorrow, and we're going to bang out another dozen shows in the next couple of weeks. So thank you for joining. I'm Pauly.
I'm Johnny.
And we are
the Canadian Bro Show.
The Canadian Bro Show. All things Canadian.
Thank you so much.
You bunch of hosers.
Take off,
You better watch, eh?
Said it with love.
Oh, we love you.
Start again. Sorry about that. Bad habit. Cal Floyd, please.
That could be copyright. Anyways, we got to go. Peace
All right,
out, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
We love ya.
Appreciate it.